Hi, this is Celeste with the Celeste Report, and I just did some shorts, and now I'm going to try and do a live, and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about drones. And this comes from the Army Mad Scientist, and I am a frequent flyer on the Army Mad Scientist. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this comes just before the government shutdown, and it is how do you get millions of drones fast? And I thought that this was interesting because they were talking about unleashing US military drone dominance initiative that was launched on July 10th of this year, 2025. Lethality will not be hindered by self imposed restrictions, especially when it comes to harnessing technologies we invented but were slow to pursue. Drone technology is advancing so rapidly, our major risk is risk avoidance. The department's bureaucratic gloves are coming off. And I would say they came off a year ago, December, when we were seeing all of those UAPs, UFOs, or whatever you wanted to call them last December. So the Department of War is looking at buying small unmanned aerial systems, or SUAS, by the millions of them, just like any other class 5 munition. And then they are going to be deploying them, and I'm just going to let you kind of look and use. You can see that this is a primary source document. This is really happening. They're using the Ukraine conflict to develop this drone technology. In the past, the Middle East was being used, but now we kind of have migrated over to the Ukraine. So, how do you get millions of drones fast? They're talking about crowdsourcing the drones and enlisting public and citizen support across the country. Thousands of 3D printing enthusiasts, hobbyists, small to medium sized businesses already have the tools and skills needed. And so they are going to harness those people. But why would they volunteer? For the same reason that Americans collected metal and rags during World War II. They're going to make it sound really appealing, and that we're doing our part for the country. And so you're going to see some crowdsourcing uh, efforts there in the drone community. You know, this is very similar to the when the FEMA would use the ham operators. But wait, just we're just looking at this article. It's more than just drones. The concept could expand in other areas, particularly robotics. The remote control car robot building communities offer expertise in motors, gears, arms, and control systems. Interesting, control systems. Imagine a rabbit looking surveillance robot that doubles as a munitions delivery systems. As the military says, the possibilities are endless. So we do need to keep an eye on this drone technology. And that's all that I have for today. Oh, I forgot. I'm live. I'm not doing a short. Good morning, Gail. Let's see. Let me see who I've got in here. Let's see. Let me go back up. Hi, Gigi in Florida. Good morning, Saffron Bay. Hi, Gail. I'm glad that you got your notification. Linda, it's great to have you here. Glad to catch that I was I did some shorts and now I'm doing live, so I'm bouncing back and forth. Um, Dee Dee, I haven't forgotten about the drones. As a matter of fact, when I started pushing the technology and how advanced it was, DARPA changed their website and I got shadow banned. So that was my reward for covering the drone technology and where it was actually at. Gigi in Florida, can you tell us what are your thoughts on the 3-1 Atlas? So basically, I did that yesterday. Um, it's I think it's just the signs in the heavens. I don't think that it's another planet. I did see an interesting article yesterday that they're now saying that we have 2 or 3 moons around our planet. Of course, these are the size of like an asteroid, which can be really small. It can be the size of my thumbnail, an asteroid, but they're calling it a moon because they want to scramble the semantics. So I don't think it's something from another dimension. But as things intensify, I think that, look to Mars, the planet of war, and that we may see some signs in the heavens, but don't think we're quite there yet. Let's see. Hi, Cyrilla. Nice to have you here. Hi, Carolyn from Virginia. Good morning, God's servant. Nice to have you here. Able-bodied. I'm glad you received the live notification, so things are working. Yeah, Dee Dee, they did shut the questions down because I tell you, like, I was getting quite, because people were really interested because I provided the links from all the coverage that I've done on drones for the last decades. And they, like, my stats just went, they crashed to like 5 people. So they basically put me in an echo chamber, and that's where they kept me. And I haven't really crawled out all the way. So, do you have any other questions? Anybody today? God's servant. Yes, we need to pray Psalm 91. I agree. Every day we need it. I did some shorts on that. So I'm going to be doing some shorts on spiritual inspiration and as it ties in and is applicable to the day and age that we live in. So make sure you check them out in the short section, wherever that might pop up. And it will be on various platforms, so it won't just be here on YouTube. Yes, I was talking about that the darkness can't conceive of the light. Absolutely. Um, any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to pop off and get my content ready for next week, what I'm going to be presenting for all of you. Um, Thoughts on anything? Questions? Okay. Well, I guess that I don't really have anything else. I didn't even have a chance this morning to look at my news this morning. Uh, when I got up, the news hadn't really come in. And so I'm newsless until I actually, after lunch, spend some time to go through it. So, anyway, God bless all of you. And whoops, am I sorry if I was sharing my screen, all of that. I didn't mean to do that. I got talking. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. Nice to have you here today. But I'm about ready to pop off. I did do some shorts that you will be seeing over the next couple days. I'm learning the technology, so I don't have as much news because I have to learn the technology as um, So Saffron Bay, where did you buy yours? Your what? Power out. When do you think the power outages will happen? When the winter storms get really bad? When it's really cold outside, that's when they're going to happen. They're planning it. You might as well just brace for it. Please talk about what you think is going on right now. I see really that what we're seeing in the news is a distraction, that we're not really seeing what we need to be seeing. And the problem is a lot of the government sites are down. I was surprised that Army Mad Scientist was up, but that was done just like a week before um, the shutdown. I've been to all the other government sites, and that's where I draw heavily from, and there's just nothing coming out. And it's going to be quiet until the government gets back to work. Let's see. Individual, let's see. I've seen Gail is saying, I've seen videos where they target individuals with drones. Absolutely. Not only individuals, cars, they can, the drones are being used for surveillance, like, are you using more water than you're supposed to, or some other compliance issue, agricultural issues. Do you remember a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, a lot of people, especially in the Midwest, I was getting hundreds of emails saying, there's drones over my farmland. And what is that all about? It's about, basically, they are mapping all of the land, they're ground truthing, and they're just getting ready for when they want total control. Let's see. God's servant, the federal government might not come back. I think that it will come back. I think. Linda, did you ever talk about the Charlie Kirk? Uh, I have not talked about the Charlie Kirk. I won't say certain words because this platform has all sorts of rules on it. And some people can say it, and other people that they have their finger or their thumb on, they can't. It just depends who you are and where you are in the pecking order. I would say that they are normalizing that type of an event. I have just done a, a briefing on the guillotine. I think we're going to see a normalization of the guillotine. I think that's why you're seeing it at these peaceful protests. So you're also seeing the normalization of chaos. And I think part of it, we are in that time with the magnetosphere diminishing and the magnetic north wandering, that this is the rise and fall of civilizations. There's all sorts of very interesting things that occur, like currency changes, the way people interact with one another, if they turn to God or if they turn to a darker force, wanting to go do out of body experiences, lots of things, health, lots of things happen during this period of time that we're in right now. And so we need to be prepared for just about anything. And it may not even be a planned nefariousness. It may just be part of God's cycle. It's like a 25,000 year cycle. You can have it, and you can even go down to the 600 where there's little mini ones. But this is the big one. It started in 2021 in December. Okay, we'll have to talk about the temple some other time. That is a huge uh, topic, but that really is so important that we should just have one um, live stream just talking about that. Um, Gigi in Florida, why don't you think that they kill us at one time, but they do it with toxins in food and all that kind of stuff? The reason is plausible deniability, because there's so many things out there. How do you really point the blame? If everybody perished from one single thing, then there would be a clear finger pointing at that thing. So there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of politics. that type of thing. So that's why they do it little bit with lots of different things in play. Teresa Warner, do you think the shutdown has anything to do with the reset? I think that it does, but I think that it also has to do with where we are in this cyclical time, and there it's a time of violence. It's I did another article you might really find interesting is Red Skies and Violent Revolutions. That's at celestialreport.com. It was very interesting, and it shows how the auroras, and when you see them very like south in Florida or down in Mexico, that it just does things to the human body. What I want to do a deep dive, and I'm going to spend some time researching now that the harvest is over, is magnetism. There is a magnetism both to the nanoparticles that have been put in us, a reverse magnetism, but also megalithic structures. So I want to go down that rabbit hole. And so that's something that once I get a little bit of research time, now that I'm not out in the garden, um, we're going to just explore a little bit. So we will talk about the altar to Baal, the arch, the, we're going to talk about all of that. I can assure you. Let's see, the Watchmen, people need to come out of the church denominations to see what is happening. Um, well, I think that you can be in your denomination and still listen and watch for the truth. It just depends what you do in your spare time. Do you watch, CNN, or do you watch the people that really put their lives on the line? And I guess that's something that I would like to share with all of you. Anybody can be anything in front of a screen, and choose your sources wisely. What you want is somebody that's been there for a long time, that has not varied, that has taken the heat and not just vanished. And what I saw with the 2020 is that a lot of people came onto the scene. They were everywhere. You saw them in the news, and now they all have their little cliques or kingdoms or whatever you want to say, and they don't want to step out and continue. I mean, this operation is not over. We have a lot to discuss, and that's why celestialreport.com is so important, because I can talk about things over there that, because I have to do community standards on other platforms, I can't do it. I can't do it on those platforms. But I have a lot to say, and I've continued to continue with the news and to give you all the information. Some things do cost money, because it really helps, because all this equipment, and I have bills, and believe me, my my bills have gone up. Like, I went to Costco, and like, oh my goodness, like one package of meat cost me $110, and it was not a roast, I can tell you that. So it really does help. But I have lots of free content, lots of free videos, lots of free articles. I am going to get back to the articles. I was doing some articles, then it was garden season. Now that's kind of over, and the canning's over. So now it's time for me to get back to do one step at a time. Also, you can join my public Telegram page, and I do try and post something there every day. So let's see. Do they still plan to reduce the female population? Um, Hermina Guild. I don't believe so. Um, I think you're going to see a lot more females. I'm seeing more males um, that are being going, and more females, and that is along what the Bible says. Um, it says that there'll be a number of women hanging on to the cloak of one man. So that's the where, and I can see it. I know so many single women right now that have lost their husbands due to one thing or another. Have you heard about ancient buildings like museum buildings, cathedrals, banks having been made from another civilization? Oh, absolutely. Especially during those big World Fair events. There was a person that really we did some coverage together, but unfortunately he's gone now. Jamie Lee. He was very into that, and so look at the mystery about those World Fair. They had so much technology. They probably even had electricity. They probably had many things that we enjoy today. And then a month, they would spend millions of dollars on this, millions and millions, and then they'd raise them to the ground. So they didn't want anybody to know that existed. Okay, let's see. Yes, there is a depopulation, able bodied. I just talked about the depopulation the other day. So I believe that a large portion of the population has already been depopulated. And why and how do I say that when you got people all around? Because if you look, original design, people that were genetically sound, they got their genes from their parents and their grandparents, and it was handed down, a living legacy to each one of us from our mothers and our mother and our father and their mothers and fathers, way back. And now we have synthetic biology that's into that coming in to our genome, whether it's the genome or our epigenome, which is like our RNA, which is an amazing thing. Our RNA can make up for any genetic problems. Let's say you're missing a few genes, it can actually fill in the gaps and you would have a very good life. But now we're seeing all of these hybrids, and people are actually, I call it bunker mentality. If you notice, think about 10 or 15 years ago, how people would act in community. They don't do it. It's a bunker mentality now. It's very rare that anybody calls, reaches out to anybody else, and everybody is busy and preoccupied with their own stuff, whether it's ill health, financial issues, working long hours, but just the erosion of what used to be common where we would get together and have a barbecue. It's kind of scary, and that's why I say that they have already depopulated a large number of people. Do you consider a zombie or a person that is like biohybrid to a basically a container or a garment for a disembodied spirit? Do you even consider them the way you would original design, the way that people were 100 years ago? I would say that most of them have been depopulated. Let's see. The Watchman, Costco really isn't the deal. You're better off going to a grocery outlet. You don't know where I live. A grocery outlet. That would be nice. I live in North Dakota. Basically, I grow my own food. That is my grocery store, except for meat. They won't let me grow animals in the city. So I'm kind of stuck in that area. I used to grow my own animals, and then with David, there was the hunting, but that isn't anymore. But everything else I grow myself. So let's see. Yes, men are losing testosterone. Nikki, scalar waves. Let's talk about that another day. Gail, I'm so glad you're trying to grow lettuce and winter greens in the greenhouse. Do you have any suggestions? Is it an indoor greenhouse or an outdoor greenhouse? That makes a difference. I have a greenhouse inside for those days when it's going to be so bad that you cannot grow outside, either because of the environmental conditions, but also that someone might help themselves to your bounty. Although I'm getting to the point, I used to be concerned, and 20 years ago we were talking about camouflage for our gardens and growing food that people wouldn't recognize as food, like not growing lettuce or tomatoes because people would know what those are, but doing some unusual and exotics. And if you go to One Green World, they're located in Oregon. They're a great company. They stand by their products. I've gotten a couple bad plants that died, when I ordered them, or, trees, and they replaced them. So, but they also have these real unusual. But today, honestly, I think most people don't even know what a tomato looks like or lettuce looks like. It comes in a bag, or it comes at Taco Bell, or it comes from McDonald's. And so they see these highly processed foods and they don't really know where it comes from. And if you ask kids, where does milk come from, or whatever grapes come from, and they'll say the grocery store or McDonald's or whatever. So we've lost, we haven't trained the younger generation very well on that. Let's see. So Watchman and Gail, in your conversation, I am going to be using a solar generator. At first, I know that we are having a dimming in our atmosphere because they're just we've got a lot of things going on in our atmosphere. So there's a ton of particulates, which is why the UN decided to take control of all particulates in the atmosphere, whether they were from outside the galaxy or in our own solar system, or things that they were putting in there. So the earth is dimming. Before even all of that, the earth was dimming. So I understand that, but at least for a while we can get by. It might give you the ability to get your food that's in your freezer canned up. You know, that way you can at least preserve what you have. Well, around here, God's servant, we don't have restaurants. I mean, in the summer, we get 2 months where you can go to a restaurant. I mean, if you went to a super big city, but I live hours from a city. So even though I live in a city, the only thing that's in the city is a post office. So yeah. Okay. Well, I think all this talk about food and stuff, I think I'm going to go grab a little bit. I made a apple Betty for a little snack. I don't usually have a little snack after dinner, but today I thought, it's Friday. I'm going to celebrate. So God bless all of you, and I will see you next week. I will be getting more routine. You can check your notifications around noon. We are working with the technology, and that takes a little bit of time, and we're working out all the wrinkles. So we're making progress. Like 3 days ago, it was like a disaster. So I'd be ready to go, but technological issues here, there, and everywhere. So now it's starting to hum like a little machine. So I will be more frequently on air. Come by and visit me at celestialreport.com, and we will see you next week. God bless you. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support through all these years. May you really be blessed with health and God's abundance, and get refreshed, rest up, because we have lots of business to attend to next week.